So, how much food do you need to order for your catering jobs? How much food do you need to make for each catering job? Extremely important questions to ask yourself, and especially if you're just coming out of the industry and you're just your good old average line cook, good old average sous chef, salad chef, or just fresh out of culinary school, or you're still in culinary school and you're looking for some extra income and you want to jump in with 2 feet first into getting your own high paying catering client. The first thing I would suggest to you is to go to moreandhospitality.com and watch the 15-minute free training I give you on how to get your first high-paying catering client. Or click that link in the description and you can get there. So what you want to do is learn how much food to prepare for your catering clients, and that's extremely important, especially when you want to, quote the job so that you can actually make a profit in the end. And we'll talk a little bit about pricing at the end of this video, at the end of this podcast. But how much food do you need to prepare? Well, I go into a heavy detail about this in the full course. You can learn more about it more on hospitality.com, but here's the basics of it. So the first thing that you want to consider is the type of demographic that you're serving. So you've already gotten on the phone with or you've been messaging, but you've gotten on the phone with your potential client, and you know that they're looking to cater a event. So the event could be a bridal shower, baby shower, birthday party, company outing. So you understand a little bit about the type of event, and do you understand anything about the demographic of the people at the event? And I know you feel like you may feel like I'm jumping the gun here and saying, oh, okay, so you're already talking to these people about what type of party they're looking to cater, but haven't I already sent them menus? Like, yes, you have already sent them sample menus. You have already given them ideas of what you can serve them, but you haven't sent them prices. And I talked to you about this in the course. It's extremely important because you want to be able to track the pricing of the items that you're selling, especially nowadays. So, I mean, beef can fluctuate. In the times past COVID, beef can fluctuate like 50% in a matter of weeks. And so you don't want to have strict, stringent pricing, especially when you're just starting out in catering. But you want to have standard menus, sure, so that the client can work off of them. But you also want to get on the phone with them and talk to them and get an idea of what they're looking for as well. So let's still get on the subject of demographic here. So, the amount and the types of food that a group will eat will vary depending on the demographic, and you're going to want to take advantage of that. And don't feel bad about being prejudiced. Prejudice isn't a bad word. It just means you're prejudging people based on demographic trends. So if you have a bridal shower with a bunch of females, typically they would eat a little bit less than, let's say, a group of firefighters and police officers who are getting together for a company outing, who have a high amount of camaraderie and tend to eat a lot more because they all work hard, male or female. So they're probably going to drink more because they're out in a company outing, and they're probably going to eat more. And the types of food that they're going to eat are probably going to be more hearty, more steak, more steak and more chicken than a salad, let's say. So you want to think in terms of that. So if you're serving, a group of people, a general rule of thumb is when thinking about proteins, 5 to 8 ounces of finished cooked protein per person. And I say cooked because you lose amount of volume after you cook a protein. So I like to use the Book of Yields for quick access to how much yield you can get from, I don't know, let's say you buy a whole snapper. The Book of Yields will tell you how much meat you'll get from it based on empirical evidence and research, so you don't have to do yield tests or any of that scary math stuff. I'll keep a link in the description to the Book of Yields that I use. You can check that out. So find out how much you're going to be able to serve them in the finished product, and you want to estimate about, let's say, like 4 to 8 ounces of meat per person. Now, if you have multiple protein selections, then you're going to have to use your judgment on whether or not more people are going to eat steak, chicken, shrimp, salmon, or whatever if you're offering multiple meats. And by using your judgment, I also mean, get familiar with the demographic. So if it's a bunch of truckers that are coming in, then they're probably going to be eating more of the darker meats like steak, and then probably chicken, and those would be the top two. Steak preceding the chicken. And steak is more expensive, so you want to make sure you're really getting your portions right, and you don't want to run out of food either. So that's the protein there. And so you find out your demographic, and you judge based on that. And now when it comes to like salads, salad is like 1 ounce of lettuce per person is fine for salads, especially, I'm talking buffet style here. You're probably going to have buffet style service for your first few catering jobs. So, salad would be like 1 ounce per person. And then when it comes to vegetables, 2 to 3 ounces per person for vegetables. And starch, 2 to 3 to 4 ounces per person on the starch as well. So these are good rules of thumb. Like, and sauce too. You want to think sauce, maybe 2 ounces per person on the sauce. And those are good general guidelines for figuring out how much food you need to prepare or how much food you need to order for a catering job. And again, I like to use the Book of Yields to help with that as well. The Book of Yields, link in the description. So what the next step would be is once you figure out how much food you need to purchase based on the portions you're going to plan for everybody, you also want to plan a buffer. And I like to do 10%. So let's say you need 50 pounds of, I don't know, let's say you need 50 pounds of chicken, or you're feeding 50 people for this catering job. I like to do a factor 10% additional for every event. So you have 10% more food than the guaranteed guest count, which is the guest count that your customer will pay for, no matter how many people show up, less than that. And if more people show up than the guaranteed guest count, then you have enough food to feed them, and then you can also have a reason to charge them more. But I talk about that heavily in the course. If you go to moreinhospitality.com, you could learn more about that in the free training. So I plan for 10% more than the amount of guests that are in the guaranteed guest count, or 10% more than the amount of food that I had calculated that I need. So you always have that extra buffer. 10% is just fine.